Welcome to Rise and Fire Bets. My name is Chris Exusion. You can find me at Chris Ebom on Twitter. We are at the cut right now. We're at the cut for the Honda Classic. This is a live betting show. If you're your first time watching it, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And we're back on the East Coast, which is awesome. We finally got some matchup plays. It's been kind of a crazy tournament. I get it. Your bets have kind of failed. You know, a lot of guys that were pretty popular did not make the cut, and that this is a very volatile event, a lot of carnage, if you will. So we're gonna find some winners. There's plenty of winners to be had, and let's do it right here. And I got a guest, really excited to have on Matt Miller from Draws and Fades podcast. He does a lot with the PGA and Live. He's got Abraham Answer on his show before. He's expanding the globe, if you will, the betting world of golf betting, and a local guy around my neck of the woods in PA. And great to have him on. A Philadelphia fan himself. He feels my pain. Matt Miller, man, how you doing?
Chris, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. Glad to have you on. A fellow brethren of the East Coast, Philadelphia scene. Always good to have. And you're right in the wheelhouse, of all things going on in golf betting, DFS. Great mind to have on. So I'm excited to pick your brain to see what we can find for winners. And as we get into it right now, the Honda Classic, what are your thoughts going into the weekend here?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people this week, my initial bets aren't going necessarily as planned. This is always kind of a tough tournament to predict. There's a lot of trouble throughout the course. So, things can flip very quickly at the Honda. So definitely plenty of live betting options going into the weekend, and we could see the leaderboard completely flip over tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the the leaderboard, let's go check that out right now on PGA Tour. Let's see. Let's get that going right here. All right. What we're looking at, Justin Suh went kind of crazy. Chris Kirk went nuts today. It was that AM wave that was going to eat this morning. The wind was pretty strong later in the day, as we saw with Billy Ho. He kind of the rails went off, if you will. Did not play well in that late round for the most part. But, you got some guys around here. Zach Johnson always playing well here at PGA National. This has been always a good spot for him. So he's been climbing up the leaderboard over here. Carson Young making moves today. He was a guy that just finished his round today and then continued to rise and fire today. The real Young, if you will, that I like to call, because there's another Young that doesn't like to play these kind of tournaments. He's big time in us over here. But Carson Young, getting the most out of his moment over here. So what are your thoughts about this board in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you look at the top of the board. I mean, is Chris Kirk? He's been up there, a decent amount over the past couple of years, and it seems like he always has a little bit of trouble closing it out. But you kind of look at that top 5, top 10, and there's not too many closers up there per se. So it feels pretty open for someone to, come and make a move and get a win.
Yeah, and we're gonna look at the DraftKings FanDuel. Oh, actually, we're gonna go to DraftKings. We're gonna head over to DraftKings. We're gonna check the live odds, because they got really most of the bets out there right now for the third round. Unlike a lot of other books here, Chris Kirk, he's at that plus 330 number. That is a little steep for him at this time. I was kind of eyeing him a little bit today as he was going off that kind of bonkers run he was going off of. But, I was hoping some of these other guys would have made bigger moves, like the Shane Lowrys of the world, that, could have really cut his odds back. And he's not technically leading right now. Justin Suh is. So at plus 330, I'm still kind of waiting for him. Is there anybody on this board that you feel like you would really like to take a stab at right now that you're like, wow, this is just great value? Like, this guy can definitely get it done. He's only a few behind. Is there anybody that you're just want to rise and fire with here?
A guy that I would consider right now live would be Adam Svensson.
Oh, okay.
And I think he's kind of in that territory. You see him right there, plus 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's kind of in that territory where he's a couple shots back. I mean, he's kind of floating around. But 30-1, I mean, at the Honda, he's he's 6 shots back. That's
Hmm.
not that much ground to make up in 2 days here. You can lose, you could throw up a double or a triple very quickly, especially on an afternoon if that wind starts blowing a little bit. I like guys who are kind of chasing a little bit here. They don't have as much pressure on them. Svensson's a good young player. He's certainly someone who I think can make a move and is very capable of being right there on Sunday. And you look at where he is. I mean, obviously Shane Lowry is much more of a proven winner than him, but you're getting, almost triple the value of Lowry live right there with Svensson. So that's certainly a guy who caught my eye at that number.
Yeah, he's a guy that I love today in round 2 showdown. He was part of my single entry today. Svensson, he actually putted the ball really well today. He was over 2 strokes putting, so he kind of peaked with that right now. But honestly, if you're looking at what he's done for the entire week, strokes gained approach, almost 2 gained stroked approach. I mean, he's striking the ball really well, right? So, and even on his off putting day, he was like pretty much an even putter. So, I mean, he feels really comfortable with this putting surface. I like that there. But a guy that I'm liking as far as a outright right now, he's a guy that I originally had as an outright, but then I took him off. But he was part of my core for DFS. I had a 3-person core. I had Denny McCarthy, Harris English, and Benny On. Those were the 3 I played in every lineup. Didn't work out too well. But I did really like Benny On this week anyway. But for whatever reason, I was trying to play it conservative, which was kind of dumb this week because like this is kind of the long shot week. But just how the tour's been going, like with what's going on with Live and everything and taking players out, your typical 190 to ones, those are not like the 50 to 60 to ones. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see. I mean, I know this is kind of a weaker field than we typically get, but even this week, I mean, I've like JT Poston now for a couple of years, and he's one of those guys that, like you said, I mean, you usually get him around, 100 to 1, 80 to 1, even in weaker fields, like 60 to 1. Seeing him go off this week at like 32 to 35 to 1 felt pretty weird. And that's just kind of the reality that we're living with, especially now. I mean, between Live and the elevated events where, all the top guys are playing, and then we see this event really get hit hard because it's smack in the middle of, the Waste Management and the Genesis. And then on the other side, the Arnold Palmer and the Players. No one's really playing this week, and it's tough to find value in the field initially.
No, I hear you. And Benny On right now is at 28 to 1. I actually found a 31 to 1 that I locked in right now on FanDuel. I was shopping around right before the show because I was like looking, I was like, he's been playing really well. And what he's done this week has barely been with the putter at all. It's been all with the approach, and everything else has been, been pretty decent. First round, he lost a little bit with the putter. He was end up even, but like today he was part of the good wave. And he was actually putting okay. It was just the approach game was excellent. And you know what? This week in general, I'm looking at what the weather is offering this week. If you look over here on Windy Finder over here, really the winds this week, it's going to be pretty steady. It's like 6 to 8 throughout. Let's see. So it's like 5 to 8, 5 to 7 mile an hour wind on Saturday, and same deal on Sunday. There's really not a lot of wind. So the course is going to play the way it's going to play. I don't think you really need to find a wind edge when it comes to these guys. So you don't have to overthink the tee times for this weekend. And I just think Benny On's playing great. Ever since he got back on the PGA Tour from the Korn Ferry, he's been putting up a lot of good performances. So this might be this kind of tournament where he pulls this off. He's in great form right now. If I were to take an outright, that's who I'm going at. I found him at 31 to 1, but every book's different. You always shop around. That's the beauty of golf betting. The odds are all over the place. So I like that play in general. But if we're looking at the top 20 market, which I always feel like is like the best value, like as far as like I understand winning a plus 120 bet's not the sexiest of things on the PGA Tour, but after seeing a couple days, like these top 20 plays, I've been cashing in with them with like my best bets throughout the last few weeks. They've been hitting. I think there's definitely some good value, especially with like guys like you and myself that watch golf all the time and understand that, there is value to be had with watching the tournament. So on this board right here, is there anybody that kind of stands out to you, like maybe a little bit plus money, or I mean, you're pretty fresh to the board, so I'm kind of throwing you on the spot.
Yeah, no. And I agree with you. I mean, we're kind of spoiled in the golf betting world where you could look at like a plus 200 bet and kind of scoff at it. Whereas, any other sport, you're getting someone at plus 200, it's a nice value. I'm looking at this board. There's a guy, if you scroll down a little bit,
Okay, sure.
I like him plus 240 live, Christian Bezadenhout.
Okay.
So I was on him before the tournament started. He's been okay so far. He's sitting in 37th right now. He's -1. But what I like about him live for a top 20 here at plus 240, he's really only 3 shots back of that top 20 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at what he's doing this week, I mean, he's 7th off the tee. He's gaining strokes on approach. He's just been terrible around the green and putting, and that's not really typical of him. If you look at his stats from last year on tour, he was 6th in strokes gained putting. He gained strokes around the green. He was 4th on tour in scrambling. He's usually a good short game guy. That's kind of where
that's usually his bread and butter, right?
Yeah, it is. So to find him struggling around the green and actually hitting it well off the tee is kind of flipped to what he typically does. If he could just get back to, doing what he normally does with the short game, he could easily make up those 2 shots and get himself back in the top 20.
No, I like it. I mean, he's been, like you said, really good off the tee. And you know what? That putter hasn't spiked yet. That around the green game hasn't spiked yet. I actually, now that I'm talking to you about this, I kind of looking for round 3 showdown personally. I think he'd be a good spot that people aren't really looking at. I mean, he was +1. No, sorry. He was -2 the first round. He I don't know if he was part of the good wave or not, but he ended up putting really well. Everything worked out for him. And then ended up being +1, but he really didn't do anything that wrong. He was still 1.5 strokes gained tee to green. And as I'm not showing this, but just this is what I've been kind of looking at for the most part. But for the event in general, like, look at this. The around the green, the putting has been the worst part. And that's what he does best. So you got to think that's going to come into play this weekend. And he's due for a big spike. And that's a great value play. I love that play right here. As I look at the board over here on the top 20, I know he probably was like a lot greater odds, but I know the conditions aren't going to be that tough this weekend. And he's a proven winner on this course. And whether it is like a smaller event or bigger event, Akshay Bhatia, he's +150. I know he's young. He said he feels really comfortable on this course. This is a course that he loves to play, and it's been proven. And his stats have been really solid. And let me bring that over real quick. So for the week, look at this approach play. Almost three strokes gained approach off the tee. His putter and his round, same thing like Bez. Just a little bit off with the putter, a little bit off around the green. He was plus the first round. I wish I knew when he played, but he, still was +2 on approach. I think he played later. You know what? He did play PM. He was one of the last tee times. So he was part of that bad wave over there. So let me think. So he was either way, he still was +2, but then in round 2, he was like on fire. He was -5 today. Off the tee was great. And getting -5 with just not that good of a putter, he must have been, target practice former there. I could only imagine. I didn't get to see him play, but having that -5 kind of day with like a not like an overwhelming like 2-stroke game putting, which usually happens with that, speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that. I mean, you do what he's doing right now with the irons, and then you catch a decently hot putting day. You have a chance to go really low.
Yeah, so I mean, I like him at +150. It doesn't sound like a great bet. This is actually my favorite bet for the weekend. This is going to be my top bet. I've decided. Akshay Bhatia +150. Right now, he is currently at T16, which is great. If he was a more bigger name golfer, I think he would be in the minuses right here. But because he's a younger player playing on the Korn Ferry Tour, a lot of people might know his name, but the respect isn't there for him. And at the end of the day, he feels really comfortable at this course. And if the conditions are going to be gettable this weekend, which I think they're going to be, because the winds aren't going to be that strong, between like 5 to 8 miles per hour throughout the entire weekend, then I think he's going to score and he's going to feel comfortable. And he's in that kind of sweet spot you were talking about before, about, being, not leading, but, if he gets on fire, then he gets in contention. And I wouldn't be shocked about that. So Akshay Bhatia, I really like him for T20. And as we go into the matchups board over here, let me see where we're at here. All right, the matchups board. I had one matchup that I was looking at. Is there anything in mind that was catching your eye at all? And I can go down the board if you want to check that out as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, just seeing this, obviously, I'm going to be on Bez this weekend. Yeah. He stands out right there against Davis Riley, who is a guy who I do like overall. I've been betting him a little bit at the beginning of the year, and he has not been great. I know that firsthand. So that matchup definitely stands out to me. It's a minus 135, so not the greatest of odds, but hey, if he wins, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Bez is going against Riley there. I'm actually thinking about here. I'm looking on the board here. Billy Horschel versus Minwoo Lee. Horschel's minus 105 against him. Somebody, on the Florida course that plays really well in Florida. He's a Gator, very comfortable. I feel like Minwoo Lee, he's been kind of the talk, he's been great on the European tour, very good player. I think he's very happy just to make the cut here. And I don't think it's about him at this point winning the tournament. I think this was a big step for him on the PGA Tour. He talked about, I believe this is his first cut made on the PGA Tour. So, I mean, there's the PGA Tour, then there's the European Tour. That's what it really comes down to. There is a level, and I think all the players know that at the end of the day. Like the DP World Tour isn't the PGA Tour. So I think he's happy where he's at. I think Billy Horschel will have that chip on his shoulder. He had a horrible round today, being on the bad end of the wind. And, I think he can fix that. We saw a -5 from Billy Horschel in the first round. And, I mean, I know he's a kind of like a first round kind of player, but being at home on the weekend, I think he could dominate in the third round. And honestly, if you look at what he's done in the third round, here, let me bring that up real quick. He's been really solid in this tournament in the third round. Let's see. Tab. Good friends over here, rickrungood.com. I'm a subscriber there. I absolutely love him there. A great site for all data and everything that goes along with it. He's over 4 strokes gained, about 2 strokes gained total for the last 2 times he's played there since 2020. So he has a proven track record playing really well in the third round. So Billy Horschel getting a little bit of a discount, being the hometown guy against a very popular European player in Minwoo Lee. Well, he's Australian, but, playing on the European tour. So that's what I'm kind of looking at.
Yeah, I like that. Billy Ho certainly has the experience over him there. He is a Florida guy, and I'm with you. I mean, I think Minwoo Lee is a nice player. He's playing well to start the year, but it's certainly a different level over here on the PGA Tour, and I think he's kind of getting a little bit of a bump just because he is that, flashy name who's playing well right now. So I like Horschel. I'm with you.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking at for the PGA Tour this weekend. My favorite play, if you're going to rise a fire on one play this weekend, Akshay Bhatia plus 150 T20. That's my favorite play. All the other plays are pretty good leans that, if you're feeling froggy, you want to leap. That's what I'm looking at. And Matt, I believe your favorite play this week is going to be the Bez T20, right?
Yep, the Bez plus 240 T20.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, we're both in kind of same wheelhouse. Bez hasn't really spiked on his best categories, that he does well on. So putter and around the green. So he's definitely due to spike in that. But I wanted to talk to you about Live Golf here. I watched the event today on the app, which, by the way, runs very smoothly. It's a great app, much better than the PGA Tour app. Finally, I'm able to click on the PGA Tour app and click stars and be able to hold my players in, which has been like the biggest struggle the last few weeks. I've been losing my mind with this new app. It's been terrible. But that PGA Tour, I mean, the Live app's been really good. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I had the app up today. I was watching the first round. I enjoyed it. I don't know what your thoughts were, but I mean a lot of shots being shown, which is always a positive. I know a lot of people, are just very anti-live, but I
Sure.
think it's a good viewing experience.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about it is they have the whole leaderboard throughout the entire time and the shifting and movements of it. And they actually showed like the wind movements and things like that. I thought those were good things. I thought it was pretty pleasing to the eye. I'm not going to lie. I think PGA Tour should have like a running board like that. I mean, theirs is kind of like in your face, explosive, like graphic kind of like, it's not really the PGA Tour style in that aspect, but uh, I think they do a good job with that in general. Did I really care who's winning besides from a betting perspective? Like, not really. Like, I don't know. I'm still at a point where I'm watching these events and like, they're just like kind of random events. Like I think there's the one thing that PGA has over Live is that they have like a legacy, they have history. I think that stuff kind of holds strong with me for the most part. I don't think Live will ever get to a point where like this event is like the Masters or anything that goes along with that. Maybe way down the road if this really holds ground, but I mean, as far as watching shots and really good players playing, I'm actually kind of disappointed. They were supposed to be in Philadelphia for Live, and that got canned this year. Did you ever hear anything about that?
Yeah, there was initial rumors that it was coming to Philly when kind of the pre-schedule cities were talked about. I tried to find out a little information about like what course they were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really find anything, and then the schedule came out, and there's nothing there. So the closest to us is the Bedminster event in New Jersey, and there's one in DC as well. So there's two relatively close. But yeah, I mean, I would have obviously loved a Philly one if we had the chance.
Yeah, and you know what the crazy thing was? They're playing in Tucson, so I went to University of Arizona, and I believe they were playing at where the Dell Technology was at, where I used to go. I used to go to that event because I had a fraternity brother of mine that used to get like corporate tickets through his dad and stuff.
Oh,
So we
sweet.
used to go, and this was like way before I was like into golf like I am now. I just wanted to like party and drink and like
Yeah.
pass out near the green, like things like that. Being a college kid, just having fun. And yeah, so this looks like you're gonna be playing there. I hope Phil gets some boo birds. He should because he's in Tucson. He's a Sun Devil. We hate ASU. That's just that's part of the brand here. We hate ASU. We don't like the Sun Devils. Maroon and yellow, very gross. Not appealing to the eye, if you will. But it's good to see every shot. I think that's important, and they still put up like advertisements during shots, and I think that's something PGA needs to start doing more. I think getting away from the action and the fact that you can just see so much more. Like the PGA, I feel like it's so hard to like watch a full event, and like that still boggles my mind. Like, do you think that's ever going to change?
It's tough. I mean, I feel like it really is a little bit frustrating with the PGA. I mean, we both know it just from betting on the event and
Mm-hmm.
having certain guys really even taking the betting out of it that I would like
Just
to
one to
watch,
watch, right?
and
Yeah.
that I never get the chance to watch. And like that was kind of the cool thing about Live, like when it first came up. I mean, a lot of the guys who I'm fans of are moved to Live just coincidentally. Abraham Answer being one of them. You
Mm-hmm.
touched on it in the opening, but when he was first coming up on the PGA Tour, I mean, unless he was making a leaderboard on the weekend, I never got to watch him play because there's no way you have like your three feature groups that you could watch, and then even the main feed is just the feature groups, like
Yeah.
maybe a couple other guys, but it's pretty much just the guys in the featured group. I don't know why they make it a separate feed. So it's just really tough to watch anyone besides the guys they throw out there, and that's one good thing about Live. I mean, you see a ton of players. You see almost the whole field really
Yeah.
at different points throughout the round, obviously focusing more on the guys who are playing well or hitting good shots. But yeah, it is cool to see a bunch of shots rather than following around. And the thing too about the PGA, I mean, if you get an event like the Honda for say, and both the feature groups are not playing well, I mean, it's almost not even worth it to watch in like a morning wave. In the afternoon, you get like the general broadcast, obviously picking up the top
Mm-hmm.
guys, but you could get stuck with feature groups that just aren't playing that well. And I guess it's rare because it's usually the top players, but if it happens, you're kind of in a jam.
Yeah, I mean that's happened a lot on PGA Tour Live where you get like Brent Snedeker. Like they would have like Brent Snedeker on like 24/7. You're like, what's going on here? Like I swear, like there's no more random guy that's on PGA Tour than like Brent Snedeker was last year. It was like the weirdest thing. Like I literally probably watched more Brent Snedeker than probably any other golfer that like on PGA Tour Live. It was absolutely crazy. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed because like the PGA Tour decided to neglect our area because I went to the BMW last year, which was awesome. I was like in crutches and crutching around in boot and everything because I tore my Achilles last year playing basketball again. So I tore my other one. So I'm retired from the game. I'm only a golfer now. But yeah, so that was awesome to go to, but like they completely neglected it. So I was like, oh, I'll go to Live, check it out. And you went to the Bedminster event, right?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to get media passes to the Bedminster event, which was awesome. That's how we ended up getting connected with Abe to begin with.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. I mean, we got access to all the guys, and some were friendlier than others and
Sure,
talking to us. But it was really cool. I mean, it was a fun experience. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased on it just because we had access to all the players, but it was definitely a fun event. Pretty good crowd over the weekend, but it was cool. I mean, it was a little bit different feeling than say like I went to the Arnold Palmer last year, and it's definitely a little bit of a different vibe when you're there. But it was an awesome time. So I mean, if people have the opportunity to go, I would definitely check it out, regardless of your feelings on PGA Tour versus Live. It's a cool golf experience to go to.
Yeah, I mean, like I hear the music playing the whole time today. When I was like, it was like they're playing the Macarena while like Cam Smith's like getting ready for his approach shot. I was like, this is wild. Like it's cool. I mean, like I get it, like because I really don't care who wins at the end of the day. These events, like they just don't hold much ground for me. So like I kind of dug kind of like the relaxed vibes, if you will. Like I didn't really, I don't know, like because we know PGA Tour very serious playing, and I don't know, it felt like it almost felt like an outing. I would go out with like my friends or like whoever just to like have a round. We're playing, we're smoking a cigar, having a drink, like whatever, the music's playing, we're having fun. That's what kind of felt like watching Live. And the cool thing is that like going to a live event, like you have to like you had access obviously, but I think if you just go to the event, I think you get really close to these guys. Am I right?
Yeah, it was, I mean, definitely. And the way they set it up is, I mean, I guess this is a lot of, events too. If you're not following the premier group, I mean, you really have access to a lot of guys. And like I said, I mean, while they're playing, they're probably going to be focused on the game. But for the most part, I mean, I saw fans lined up right outside the putting green, whatever, and guys were pretty good about talking to people or, doing whatever. They're pretty laid back, having a good time. So you can get pretty close up, even if you don't have any access.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So when I went to the BMW, I went to a practice round, and then I went on Sunday. So when I went to the practice round, I was checking some guys out. The best guy that I talked to, well, Tony Finau was great. I got to talk with him, got a picture with him. He signed my flag back there wherever I can point. The camera's all weird. Yeah. But yeah, he signed it. Great dude. And when I talked to him, I should have known I should have got off of him. I already locked my bet in. He was like, I was talking to him about the course, and he did not seem confident at all. And I don't believe he played well at all. I think he played terrible, honestly. But anyway, but the one guy that actually kind of opened up the most, that was actually practicing was Sahith Theegala. Like he was awesome. Like I talked to him for I don't know a couple minutes. I asked him like questions, and he was more than happy to answer them. I asked him about because the big story with the BMW was like the rough. Like everyone's like, oh my gosh, this rough is out of control. Like it's really big. Like I did my honorary ball drop because that's like golf Twitter. If you go to an event, it's your job. If you're on Twitter, you got to do the golf ball drop. And like, I don't care if you're someone that does content or someone that follows content. You're there, do your part for the community. Drop that ball in there. Let's see if it's really a big deal or not. So I did that, and it looked pretty gnarly. But like, I talked to Sahith, and he's like, "I've seen worse." And I was like, "Oh wow!" Like he just like brushed it off like completely. But he's a really confident dude in general, young guy, But everybody else I talked to was like, "It's brutal." But Sahith was like, "I've seen worse." So I mean, I forget what happened with him for the most part, but like the putting green stuff, that's pretty interesting. Like it's so hard to gauge the practice round, like how good they're going to be, whether they're truly practicing stuff and figuring out things, or are they just really off that week? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's definitely hard. I mean, it's hard to gauge. You always got to take it with a grain of salt. I feel like. I mean, obviously, if they're, if a guy's horrible, maybe take it into account a little bit. But there's been plenty of times where you hear, oh, this guy's hitting it great or whatever, and he doesn't do anything come tournament time. Or even actually on the flip side, I mean, we heard about it leading up to the Open Championship 2 years ago when Morikawa was having trouble adjusting to the grass over there, and he wasn't hitting his irons well, and then he went out and won. So you never know what's going to actually happen when the real round starts. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool that you got to talk to Thigala, and he was cool about it. Opened up. I mean, some guys, it's easy to be inside the ropes as a player and kind of brush off any kind of fans and not feel the need to talk to them. But it's cool when the guys take the time to actually talk to you.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of the thing in golf nowadays. I don't think people are like I mean, yeah, you'll get some guys that won't like talk or anything. Like probably like your Roms of the world probably will like block you out completely, your Cantlays and stuff. But I think most of the guys are pretty cool. They like when I see them practicing on the greens in general, like they're all like laughing and like talking and pretty like social and everything. So I mean, they need to like show that more. And I think that would draw a lot more people. But hey, Matt, I wanted to thank you again for coming on. I've been wanting to have you on for some time. Great talking with you. I feel good about these bets, man. I think we're going to cash in this weekend. And it was awesome to get your perspective on Live because I know it's like kind of like we got to brush away from it. It's like a line divided, but like I try to give it a chance, and I think there's goods with both sides. It's just, I think there can be something that helps the PGA Tour, especially with I talked about it on Twitter, which kind of blew up a little bit, but the actual, rounds not finishing, pretty outrageous.
Yeah, this is becoming a little bit of a trend, and it's unfortunate. I get it if there's weather or something
Yeah,
that's
weather's
affecting it, and you
huge,
go into
yeah.
delay, but there's no reason that there should be no delay, and you should start and not finish a round.
Yeah, it's crazy. And whether it has to come down to a shotgun start, like maybe that's when it has to, like it sounds kind of crazy because when you think shotgun starts, you're like, oh, charity event, like it's not like a real thing, like what is it? Shotgun start, but um I think it'd actually be good for betting because then you can start on some certain holes that could be birdie streaks and stuff. Like I think it could make it really interesting now that I'm thinking about it. Like I'm actually kind of for the shotgun start. I know it's very traditionalist to have like your normal start and everyone go take your turn and everything. But I think you can gain an edge like starting on a certain hole and knowing that you can get like 3 holes in a row that like you normally wouldn't get in a row that like you can make moves on.
Yeah, there's definitely both sides of it. I mean, I'm sure like golf course traditionalists and diehard fans are like, oh my god, you got to play the course like 1 through 18. That's the way it was designed. But there's certainly the element of it, and I mean, Patrick Reed, people don't like him, whatever, but he talks about it a ton. How like much he hated being caught in like a wave of the bad wave, and how like you can completely get ruined from a tournament. Think about last year. We're coming up on the Players. Last year, the Players Championship. I mean, the guys who got caught on the wrong side of the wave there were pretty much done just because they got a bad tee time, and we've seen that happen in some big tournaments, and it sucks when it's determined. Weather kind of determines the outcome a little bit, or at least knocks certain guys out of it. So there is some aspect to fairness if you're all starting at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's some validity to it, and just from a watching perspective, I mean, the Live event today, you could spend 3.5, 4 hours watching, and you got the whole round in. Versus the PGA Tour, you really have to take a full day to consume. And like you said, I mean, we're not even done today.
No, exactly. And I like the fact that Live, they have the thing where it says how many holes are left. Like, I think that's kind of cool. It's like kind of like a clock, like in a basketball game where you're like, all right, we have 15 minutes left. There's 10 minutes left in the game. Like, you realize when it's like coming down to the wire for these guys. And I think it's off brand, but I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. So I think there's some things that you could do with that. And I know that the clocks are going to get like, spring ahead, we're coming up in about a week or so, and then we won't even talk about this anymore. But I've been getting sick of it, especially on a DFS standpoint and everything, because I've been tacking showdowns mostly round and week long because I feel like there's a little bit more edge with it. But you know, it is what it is. We'll see what the progressions go with and everything. But hey, Matt, I wanted to thank you again for coming on. You can find him on Draws and Fades podcast, and of course, Matty Mills 85 on Twitter. Thanks again, man, for coming on. We're gonna get some winners.
Absolutely, Chris. Thanks for having me on. I had a great time, and I think we gave out some winners tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's do it.